We've got some tier lists, we have some Dynasty football, and we've got some cock-a-doodle tight ends to talk about. So let's just go over this right now. We have 3 tight ends in the S tier, 4 tight ends in the A tier, 3 tight ends in the B tier, and 2 tight ends in the C tier. So overall, let's just be honest, right? You don't really know what you're gonna get out of the tight end position. And like I said earlier, it's a lot of cock-a-doodle at the tight end position. Week in and week out, somebody new is at the top of the list. So I'm gonna do my best to tier these guys out, and I'll let you guys know it's before the NFL draft. After the NFL draft, we'll have to re-tier some things out, see where people might shape up based on landing spots at the draft. But let's just dive right on into it, into this C tier right now. First guy we're going over is gonna be Dallas Goedert. Goedert's a guy that could be interesting, right? Overall, really good fantasy tight end for most weeks, just like a lot of these guys in this tier. There's just a lot of weapons on this offense. You know, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and now Saquon Barkley on the Eagles. He's really 4th in the pecking order, if you ask me. Let's look at what Dallas Goedert was able to do in 2023. Goedert had 59 receptions for 592 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Dallas Goedert coming in at 29 years old, so a little bit older. Dallas Goedert missed a lot of last season, but overall, when he was able to play, he showed you some type of consistent type of numbers. Nothing too flashy, nothing crazy to talk about. Overall, Dallas Goedert, I think he belongs here in the C tier. I think he might even miss my tier rankings, my top 12. Once maybe Brock Bowers and things starts getting slated into my rankings, we'll just see. Dallas Goedert overall just an okay tight end. It is what it is. And speaking of okay tight ends, let's just go to the next guy we're here talking about in the C tier. It's Pat Freiermuth. Let's see, the Steelers, they could be something new, right? We got upgrades at quarterback position. We got Russell Wilson there. Justin Fields is now the backup quarterback. I think overall Freiermuth is nice. They ended up getting Darnell Washington, that rookie tight end last year from Georgia. Big monster type of guy. I was like, yo, this is kind of a pullback for me. Darnell Washington really didn't do much. Hell, let's just think about it. Not many people did much for the Steelers because of the cock-a-doodle at the quarterback position. So it is what it is right now. But Pat Freiermuth has an opportunity here with Russell Wilson to maybe make more of a name for himself and be more fantasy relevant. That's why I have him ahead of Dallas Goedert. Look at what he did in 2023. Pat Freiermuth ended up with 32 receptions, 308 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, Pat Freiermuth, he's 26 years old, right? A lot younger than Dallas Goedert, who we mentioned earlier. I think that if he's just given the opportunity, which he should be the guy at the tight end position with maybe Russell Wilson throwing the football for the most part. I think he'll be the starting quarterback for 2024 as long as he continues to do well. He will be the quarterback, even with Justin Fields kind of licking his chops to get into the ball game. But I think Pat Freiermuth has an opportunity to really set himself as one of the main go-to guys. Obviously, George Pickens will be the 1A type of guy to go to, but Deontay Johnson's gone, so the second target is going to be Pat Freiermuth. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But those are the 2 guys definitely in my C tier. Let's bump it right along here. Go over to the B tier. First guy I'm going to go over is Jake Ferguson, the tight end for the Cowboys. I like Jake Ferguson. The problem that I have with Jake Ferguson is he's more of a tight end type of guy, right? If he doesn't get a tight end, he's not really going to do much for your fantasy team. He doesn't sit there and get a ton of receptions. He doesn't sit there and get a ton of yards. He's the guy that if he gets you a good touchdown, he'll be nice in the fantasy rankings that week. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he's probably nowhere to be seen. Let's just look at what he did in 2023. Jake Ferguson ended up with 71 receptions, 761 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Jake Ferguson, a 25-year-old tight end coming into the season. Overall, you get what you get, right? You get somebody who in 5 games he had a touchdown. In those 5 games, you were happy you had Jake Ferguson. In those other games that Jake Ferguson didn't score a touchdown, you kind of had a free square there at the tight end position because he just put up a bunch of squat numbers for you. So wasn't too really good. But overall, like I said, this list is mostly a lot of cock-a-doodle, not too many consistent players on this list. Next guy we're talking about in the B tier is going to be TJ Hockenson. And boy, has this guy really fallen from the stars. He was really, really good with the Lions, moved over to the Vikings, and man, he was a stud, right? He was up there, top 3 type of tight end, killing it. Now you see Kirk Cousins going bye-bye. Now he's reliant on Sam Darnold. Who wants to rely on Sam Darnold for their fantasy tight end? Not I, right? Let's look at what he did in 2023. TJ Hockenson ended up with 95 receptions, 960 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If you think you're getting 95 receptions from TJ Hockenson in 2024, you must be on some mushrooms or something, because that's not happening with Sam Darnold at the quarterback position. TJ Hockenson takes a huge dip now with Kirk Cousins no longer on the roster. I'm just saying right now, just temper your expectations for TJ Hockenson, right? He's a 27-year-old tight end, a little bit older, right? So if you can get off of him in Dynasty football, I know his value probably isn't the highest, but I think his value is only going to get a lot less than now. So if you can go and sell off of TJ Hockenson and move on to a younger talent, that's what I would do. That's my recommendation for you. Now, the last guy we have here in the B tier, and it's going to shock many of you, and I know some of you trolls are going to go down there in the comment section, tell me how stupid I am, but I want you guys to come back and tell me how right I was. But I'm going Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is, yes, in my B tier. And let me explain why. Yes, Travis Kelce can be absolutely phenomenal in the playoffs. In the NFL playoffs, it doesn't matter for fantasy football. We want to know what you do in the regular season. And I think the Chiefs are at the spot right now where they're kind of saving Travis Kelce. You saw that even last year, Travis Kelce kind of moseyed along, That's kind of what he was doing throughout the season. Once the playoffs started, then that's when he kicked in. That's when we were hyper targeting Travis Kelce. That's when we were kind of going over some things. So I just don't like, as far as Travis Kelce during the fantasy football regular season, especially in your fantasy football playoffs, Travis Kelce is really just coming up absent in a lot of these things. And I'm sorry about that, but a lot of people are drafting Travis Kelce like in the second round of redraft leagues right now. And listen, oh my Lord, if you're taking like the 5th, 6th, or 7th best tight end in football in the second round, you're setting yourself up for failure. Travis Kelce is no longer that first round tight end, bona fide, giving you those wide receiver numbers week in and week out. That is gone, right? Travis Kelce, he's a little bit longer in that tooth right now, and the Chiefs are treating it so. Let's look at the 2023 numbers. Kelce ended up with 93 receptions for 984 yards and 5 touchdowns. And again, Travis Kelce going into the season at 35 years old. We saw his brother Jason Kelce retire. Travis Kelce's probably not long after him, and I think that they're kind of moving on slowly, giving Noah Gray some more opportunities. Travis Kelce sitting on the bench a little bit more, resting a little bit more, not giving him all those hyper-targeted opportunities that we're used to seeing from Travis Kelce. I think he's just a steer clear away. If somebody wants to buy Travis Kelce for a higher pick, maybe even a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick, I say go ahead and move off of Travis Kelce. I tell you guys consistently all the time, I'd rather sell on these guys a year or two early instead of being a year or two late, right, on these guys. This is probably the most value you'll get for Travis Kelce at this point. Probably should have sold him last year, but I say move off of Travis Kelce. As far as fantasy football goes, I am not high on Travis this year. That's why I have him here in my B tier. Let's move it right along to the A tier. First guy we're going to go over here is David Njoku, and boy, did he show out with Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. The reason why I don't have him at the top of my A tier is that we have to see how Deshaun Watson comes back and play. Joe Flacco no longer on this team. He is now backing up for the Indianapolis Colts and Anthony Richardson. So right now we have Deshaun Watson, right? Will he target the tight end position? Historically, he's not really a big tight end type of guy, but if he can see what happens with David Njoku, he's a freak of nature. And when Joe Flacco was airing this ball out, David Njoku was the recipient of that quite a bit. And if you can see that and know that David Njoku is one of his best targets on this football field, I think David Njoku could have another monster season, but again, I had to let him at the end of this A tier because I don't know how Deshaun Watson is going to treat this situation. Let's look at what David Njoku was able to do in 2023. He ended up with 81 receptions for 882 yards and 6 touchdowns. David Njoku, 28 years old, right? Getting to the brink of selling opportunities, but I still think he's at the point where you might be able to hold on to him for another year or two before you have to sell this guy. But I think that if Deshaun Watson comes out and he lights the world on fire with David Njoku at the end of the season, that is when you need to sell David Njoku. He'll be going into 29 years old into the 2025 season. And then once you start creeping on that 30 years old, you need to start getting off of these tight ends, right? So I think David Njoku has the ability to be a phenomenal monster for fantasy football. But again, we have to see what Deshaun Watson ends up doing. And if he can able to provide some type of value for you and your fantasy football teams, then David Njoku should be the reason why Deshaun Watson is good. Let's go over the next guy here in the A tier. We're going over George Kittle. This guy, another one of those boom or bust type of players, in my opinion, right? Sometimes Kittle kind of MIA for the most part, and there's a lot of boom games, right? Brock Purdy has a lot of people to throw the football to. Not only do we have Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, you got Brandon Ayuk, you got Deebo Samuel there as well. Then you got to fit George Kittle into the mix. So there's going to be plenty of games where George Kittle's great for you and plenty of games where he's not even showing up for you. But again, because of how frequent his games are, that he's consistent for you, I had to put him here in the A tier. Look at the stats from 2023. Kittle ended up with 65 receptions for 1,020 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, George Kittle ended up with 31 years old, right? So he's over that 30-year mark. So if you get a good offer for this guy, I would move on from George Kittle. But he's able to get a lot of touchdowns for you, right? And that's what you wanted, right? When he was able to get a lot of yardage and those touchdowns, that was winning weeks for you, right? George Kittle, he should be good if you have a team in your dynasty league that is in a win now mode. George Kittle is a perfect sell offer to them right now. You can probably get top dollar for George Kittle right now. A really good sell opportunity for you. Let's move on to the next guy here. Another phenomenal tight end. Could be the #1 tight end here in 2024. We're going Mark Andrews. He is by far a very nice, consistent guy for you. Lamar Jackson looks for this guy all the time, especially in the end zone and in the red zones, right? So I like what he can bring to your fantasy football team. I think Mark Andrews, he would have had a huge stat line this season if it wasn't for the big injury that he ended up sustaining. So let's just look at what he was able to put up in the limited time in 2023. Mark Andrews ended up with 45 receptions for 544 yards and 6 touchdowns. Mark Andrews, again, 29 years old. I would say hold on, even though he's 29 years old. Let him go through a full season. He should be able to put up over 1,000 yards receiving. Should be a nice asset for you. And then he'll be 30 years old going into next season. I would sell him in the offseason in Dynasty football to try to get top dollar for Mark Andrews. I would not sell him now, though, because I think his value is pretty low. If you want to try to flip the sale there for you, I'd go buy Mark Andrews this year and then sell him next year. But I think Mark Andrews overall, pretty good opportunity right now to be phenomenal. Let's go over the last guy I have here, right here in the A tier, and I have a feeling he'll be in my S tier before next year starts. That's gonna be Kyle Pitts. Why Kyle Pitts, right? Everybody's like, oh, is this the year? Is this the year? It seems like we've been saying that year in and year out. This is the year for Kyle Pitts. Go buy Kyle Pitts. And a lot of people have wrote off Kyle Pitts. But let me tell you guys, right? Kirk Cousins is coming to town. No more do we have Desmond Ridder stinking up the place. Kyle Pitts is uber athletic, big freak athlete type of guy, plays a lot in the slot. I'm telling you, he has the hands to be phenomenal. Arthur Smith is no longer with the Falcons. He moved on. It's going to be a completely new offense, an open offense that's going to benefit Kyle Pitts. Let's look at what Kyle Pitts was able to do in the cock-a-doodle situation he was in 2023. He ended up with 53 receptions, 667 yards, and only 3 touchdowns. Y'all, Kyle Pitts is only 24 years old. He's still super young, super talented, and right now, his value is the lowest it will ever be, probably for the remainder of his career. I tell you right now, if you have the opportunity to go buy Kyle Pitts, you need to do it now. With Kirk Cousins, he's going to utilize that tight end position all the time. Just look at last season. TJ Hawkinson, he ended up with 95 receptions. The tight end, TJ Hawkinson, who's not nearly as athletic as Kyle Pitts, had 95 receptions. Go get Kyle Pitts. If you know anything for your dynasty roster, he's young, he's talented, should have Kirk Cousins for the next few years. I think he's a great opportunity to go buy now. Let's go over the next guy here. We're talking about, it's going to be the S tier now, right? We got three guys in the S tier. First guy I'm going over is Trey McBride, somebody who was highly touted, right? Out of college. He ended up needing a hurt Zach Ertz. He was out of the game. Trey McBride came in and he seized the opportunity to be a solid player. Love what I'm seeing from Trey McBride, and consistently the main man, right? Right now, there's no wide receivers besides that rookie last year, Michael Wilson there. They should probably have Marvin Harrison, most likely, either Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors. They're going to draft one of these guys, most likely in the first round. So they're going to have some talent there at the wide receiver position. But Trey McBride, make no question about it, he is a very talented tight end. I think that Kyler Murray built a nice rapport with Trey McBride. He's going to be consistent for you week in and week out. Had to easily place him in my S tier. Let's look at what he was able to do in 2023. He ended up with 81 receptions, 825 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Trey McBride, only a 24-year-old tight end, right? Still has a lot left into the tank. If you have him on your dynasty roster, you pretty much got him for free, right? A lot of times you can even pick him off a free agency, right? The second year, because he wasn't doing anything. But right now, it's going to be hard to go get Trey McBride, right? So it's going to be hard to go buy this guy. If you have him, you're definitely holding him. You can have him for years to come. Teaming up with Kyler Murray should be nice and talented. The Cardinals offense should continue to improve, right? They can't really get any worse. It is what it is. But if you have Trey McBride, be happy that you have him. I easily have him in my S tier. I think he's only going to get better. Let's go over the next guy we have in the S tier. It's going to be Dalton Kincaid, that tight end out of the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Bills got rid of Stephon Diggs, right? The #1 target right now. It doesn't even matter if they bring in a rookie wide receiver like a Keon Coleman, a Donai Mitchell. It doesn't matter who they bring in. It's going to be the Dalton Kincaid show in 2024. He's young. He's athletic enough. He's got great hands for a tight end. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to have a monster season. Would not surprise me if he was the #1 tight end in 2024. I love what he can do. Let's look at his stats in 2023. 73 receptions, 673 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Dalton Kincaid, 25 years old, right? Very, very young. Somebody who should be, again, the focal point for Josh Allen and the Bills. I think he's going to have a great season. If you have this guy, you are foaming at the mouth right now. Love what he can provide easily in my S tier. And the #1 guy that I have going right now, Sam Laporta, right, from the Lions. Just look at what he was able to do last season, and I think he's going to keep doing that year after year. Jared Goff finds this guy early and often. I mean, he gets you some touchdowns, he gets you some yards, he gets you the receptions. He is the full package. I love Sam Laporta and what he can bring you. He's a tight end out of Iowa, came out. I was high on this guy too. Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, these tight ends coming out of college were great, and both of the guys, they really showed out. Let's look at what he was able to do in 2023. He ended up with 86 receptions, 889 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Sam Laporta is 23 years old. That is crazy to me, right? 23 years old when the season starts. You can't get any better than this. Sam Laporta is going to go out there and consistently get you top tight end numbers week in and week out. At the end of the season, he's going to easily be a top 2, top 3 tight end. Easily be the #1 tight end if it all comes out said and done. So Sam Laporta, you really can't get much better than him. But just to let you guys know, that was just a quick video of the tight end position. Make sure you guys hitting the like button. It really helps the channel. Hit the like button for me. Hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And yo, we'll see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.